think everybody said times. I didn't hear anybody say anything different. We all kind of filled in the blank. We all did our high school literature reading. Great, excellent. How about this one? How are you? I think I heard doing today. Great, a couple of different, you could go a lot of different direction right now, right? There's a lot of things you could say here, but we had a little bit of consensus on the most popular ones, the most common ways we might fill in the blank. Here's another one for you. What blank is it? Day, time, year. Heard a few different things. The heck? What the heck is it, right? Now we start getting into, there's more nuance. There's different things we could fill in that blank. Well, congratulations. You are all now amazing large language models. So what I mean by large language models is that's the underbelly of generative AI. They're called large language models, like OpenAI, ChatGPT. That's a large language model that is under the hood. That's the fancy name for it. So you guys in your noggin just did exactly what a large language model is doing, but you did it as a human because that's artificial intelligence. It's trying to imitate what we do naturally pretty darn well. So how does it work? So a large language model, to build one, essentially goes out and scrapes the entire corpus of text data that it can get off the internet. And that's about on the order of 20 terabytes of data. And then by doing that scraping, it's trying to anticipate this idea of language, kind of like what we just did, but on a larger scale. What might want, a lot of us have used it to write emails. What might I want to say in an email? Go out, here's an exercise I did, go out and look at companies of this size and tell me what their sustainability practices are, for example, right? It's a research help. So with that, let's look at a 4-year-old. So scientifically, and I'm with a very academic group here, and I do have citations. I don't think I have it on the slide. I have it in my notes for this. Human toddlers, are the most effective learning system, machine, element, whatever you want to call it, in the world. And by the time a human gets to age 4, just through their eyes, not smell, not touch, not taste, not hearing, just vision, they've taken in a petabyte of data. Let's put that in context. Petabyte, 20 terabytes of what these large language models are being used to build with. It's remarkable. So these models are trying to imitate what we do as humans pretty darn well, and they're doing a pretty darn good job at it. So some of them that you may have heard out on the marketplace are OpenAI's, Google's got Gemini, Anthropic Claude, Meta Llama, Stanford Alpaca, they're coming along. I'd say there's roughly, give or take, about 20 of these foundational models that are out there that are being used. Now, when I want to use it, let's say I want to stand up something for the university and I want to use my own university data. The fancy term for that is retrieval augmented generation. Or if you want to sound really hip at your next party, you can say, yeah, we're doing some generative AI with a RAG with our own data. So that's how you might talk about it, is RAG. And I was actually literally in a conversation yesterday where that's exactly what they said. Yeah, we did some RAG with our own data. So you bring your own data in with one of these models to be able to do applications. So let's give an example of how I might use generative AI. So I'm going to run into this text out in the marketplace, right? It's a review. I ordered some lights. Let's read this review together and decide what we think the sentiment of this review is. So the brightness of the lights is wonderful. They arrived late, but they were a great price. What do you guys think? Is this positive? Is this negative? On 2 dimensions, it's positive, but 1, it's negative. It's mixed, right? Great call out, right? I see mixed things here. Any other thoughts? Yes. Yep. Oh, I like that. It's a review of two different things. The review of the lights is positive, the delivery is negative. Yes, ma'am. And the price was positive too. Yeah, so we got a compound kind of thought. Well, let's see what ChatGPT says. I'm going to feed it to ChatGPT, and this was ChatGPT 3.0, so this was about a year ago. So based on the content of the review, this is what ChatGPT says. I would assign a sentiment score of around 0.6 to 0.7. One's perfect. So just so you know, that's towards the positive side. And it even says, give some nuance, leaning more towards the positive side. So it describes that nuance well. And it even says, despite mentioning the late arrival, it picks up on that. The positive aspects of the brightness and affordability contribute to an overall positive sentiment. That's pretty complex reasoning. So this is what we're seeing out of ChatGPT and that ability to put what we just did in our noggins pretty fast, put it together. So here's how we're seeing it out in the world. We're seeing conversational bots is one of the top ways my customers are dipping their toe into the generative AI water. And I say dipping their toe because there are a lot of things that come around generative AI that we're talking about. And we're going to dive into those so that we understand, like, what are the things we have to think about as we go on the generative AI journey. So use it to answer questions. For example, I have organizations, they have a bunch of documents within their organization. And so they're going out and buying one of these large language models, and then they're adding their own knowledge base into it so that it can answer questions throughout their organization, for example. Translating languages is a common one, document processing and creation. We're going to see an example of that, and analysis and interpretation like we just did with ChatGPT. So when we go on this journey, we can also see that this same concept of large language models is being applied to images. So how many of you have had a picture? So I'm on the beach with my family, and my colleague, Gary, who's back in the corner, by the way. Hi, Gary. So Gary, by the way, is your ASU account representative from Alteryx. But Gary decides he is going to photobomb me. And I'm trying to get my Christmas card picture, man. So I have to scrub Gary out and put the nice waves to fill in the rest of my picture. How many of you guys have played with this functionality on your phones or other? Have any of you played with that? Right? So with that, that's the same concept, right? I'm trying to fill in the blank, but with images. So here's another use. And this one's really fun because I know we have people who are research minded. So Earth Species is an organization that are studying animal language. And so whales in particular. So they might see something, they're capturing the sounds, the communication between these whales, but they're also capturing videos and they're capturing images. And they're trying to match them to understand what these whales are saying to each other. So they might see something like this, and the whales are thrashing around in the water, and they look like they're having a big old fight. And so they're watching them to see, they go their separate ways. Months later, do they come back? Do they ever talk again? Like, what does this behavior look like? And so actually, months later, what they see is this third little baby whale swimming along, and they're like, okay. But now they have more clues about what these whales were saying. And why this is important and why this is really cool is if we can understand animal language better, we can get important clues about our planet. So this is why this has become such a hot topic as well. Okay, how many of you have heard interesting stories about misuse of generative AI? I'm going to tell you some, in fact. Yeah, people are raising their hand, right? And rightly so, we're a little bit cautious about it. Most organizations are a little bit cautious, ourselves included, even though we develop and deliver generative AI. And I'm going to tell you how that looks to actually be cautious and considerate, because what could go wrong? So I was in a meeting in Sydney, Australia with a bunch of executives. We were having lunch and we were just talking about what they're doing with generative AI. And one of the gentlemen, he was from a large global funeral services company. And so their first project was to help the folks who are assisting people who have lost loved ones in how do I talk to them? What are some things I can say? How many of you have teenagers or young adults in your life? Or are a young adult? If you're a professor in this room, you have many probably young adults in your life. What does it mean when they text the emoji a skull? They're laughing. Thank you. They're laughing. And but a skull is dead. The reason the skull is used is it was so funny they died dead laughing. So those of you who did not know that, you're welcome. You're now hip. But here's the problem. So my funeral services guys, think about this. Remember, large language models are out culling the internet, what's out in popular culture to learn what it should say. So let's say I go to this chatbot or I'm talking to this person at the funeral services company and I say, yes, my loved one, they died, they're dead. We need to arrange for cremation. And the chatbot or the guidance comes back, that is hilarious. That is so funny. Not so good, right? But these are the things we have to think about. What is pop culture teaching our models to say in these kinds of situations? So, yeah. How many of you have played with these? With images? Anyone? Get their nice, low cost, or free LinkedIn profile picture? Back in the day, you'd go to a studio, you'd pay hundreds of dollars if you wanted a professional grade. Now I can go to Disneyland, or I can be walking on campus, or I can be sitting at home, and I can feed it, and it's going to come out with a gorgeous LinkedIn profile picture for me. But what could go wrong? What do you see? 3 hands, too many fingers. Now, granted, I created this. This is created about a year ago. These models are coming along fast and ferociously, right? They're improving day by day. So even this is probably not coming out as much today, but we still have to be mindful. I was actually trying to create a presentation. So all the images, by the way, in this deck are all created using generative AI. And I was trying to create an image. I was giving a talk at a large banks conference on audit risk. I know, not probably the topic you guys would be interested in, but I wanted an image that showed people sitting around dissecting numbers and data and really monitoring, but I wanted it to be very diverse. It took me 12 tries to get it to give me some kind of demographic diversity. I had to keep steering my prompts to give me, it would either give me all women or all men or all white people or all, like, it was ridiculous. Like, I'm like, really? If I give you the word diverse workers, diverse knowledge workers, it's going to take you 12 tries? Try again, right? That was definitely not a great experience. And that was not that long ago, by the way. So we talked about bots being able to say things inappropriate. In that same lunch in Sydney, another gentleman told the story and of how it scrapes all their knowledge in the company so people can go ask questions, right? It's always hard to try to find who knows what in an organization. If I can get all my documents together, maybe it'll help me find things. Well, this gentleman had a great idea of what he wanted to find. He was like, give me the names and phone numbers of all the single women in our company. And it did. So here's the deal. This is not a generative automation. It's not a generative AI problem. This is a data management, a data governance problem. Anybody in here work in data management or data governance by any chance? Okay. These people are having their day. They are popular again. This was always the job in an organization that everyone's like, oh, the data governance guy's coming. He's going to tell me what I can and can't do with my data. I know he's right, but what a hassle. Like, this is becoming a critical role in making sure that we have responsible use of generative AI. All right, what about this one? I said, give me a picture of a successful CFO, Chief Financial Officer. What bias do you see in this picture? All right, that's the low-hanging fruit. Try again. Old white male. Yeah, that's the low-hanging fruit. But there are other things. What do you see? What else do you see? Glasses, right? Every single one of them has glasses on. What else? How they dress. Okay, we are Southwest, West Coast folks. And I just actually was in New York yesterday. Like people even there are dressing much more casually. We do not see CFOs wearing this kind of attire very often, sometimes in a bank boardroom, for example. Sometimes in my banking customers in New York, I will see this. But even yesterday, I was at a financial institution and they were not dressed like this. Fancy watch, right? No laptop. I love that. Right? How does he do his job? How's he getting his data? That's a good one. I hadn't seen that one. I love it. Every time I do this, people draw different kinds of things. And then the furniture, right? It's like the implication of hardwood, fancy office, fancy furniture. A lot of us are working from our homes anymore. So this is the kind of thing we have to think about. But here's even the bigger challenge. Who gets to decide what a successful chief financial officer should look like? Who gets to correct what that should be if we indeed want to correct it? There's a lot of nuance to unpack there. So these are the kinds of things that we're grappling with. And then when we talked about large language models, go out and scrape the internet. Let's say I have access to different subscriptions for different publications. Do I have the right to scrape that? There's a big lawsuit. Who do you think I'm implying here with the lawsuit? New York Times. Some of us may know this lawsuit. It was in the news cycle. But when I did my generative AI image, did it give me, even if I said, give me a picture of someone reading the New York Times, look what it gave me. They're being ultra careful with logos, with how they do things. Even in this one, when I said, give me logos for all these organizations, look at them. We all know, our brains know exactly who we're trying to imply here, right? But it's not exact. So this is how some of these generative AI models are skirting this issue or protecting themselves from the issue. So here's another one. The way large language models work is it's taking all that corpus of public-ish data. And then if I want to create my own model for ASU and I want to bring in my ASU data, let's say the admissions office wants to have a chat bot with prospective students or people asking questions, and they want to take all their historical, maybe they have phone logs, I don't know, of these kind of conversations, or they have some kind of record, and they want to feed that to the model to make it more intelligent in their space. That's how RAG works. Who owns the ASU data? Now I've fed it to, let's say, OpenAI's model. Do they own it? These are the things that people are working through, and there's license agreements around this, but these are the things, the ways people are thinking about. So this is where, if you guys have heard the term out there, responsible AI, this is what this is all about. And so even us, we are very, very careful with how we're using AI, even at Alteryx. And the kinds of things, the principles are around having human agency and oversight. We call this a human in the loop, reliability and safety, fairness, transparency, trust. These are all the principles. And these are all the industry and governmental organizations, not all, but a large amount of them that we participate in and that are out in the world to tackle these issues and to align with. And so this is how that looks when we talk about getting the responsible AI. So here's what's really funny. I meet with C-suite executives almost daily, and many of them say, Heather, my board came to me. They said, I need AI. Get me AI. Can you get me AI? That's all they, and I'm like, let's talk about what problem are you actually trying to solve? Which Leah Rogers, who also is your account executive here at ASU, is going to do when she's trying to solve problems, right? She's not going to just say, oh, here, I have this Swiss Army knife of a tool. Like, let's talk about what problem you're trying to solve. That's how we roll, right? Because to be honest with you, I'm a data scientist by training. Most problems they come to me with, I actually just need to prep and blend my Excel spreadsheets. Now, ultimately, I do want to get into AI, and there's a path there, and I want to get them into AI, but I need to get them out of manual data processes as well. So let's talk about how this typically looks for the real world, getting into the generative AI journey. So usually, I've just got to wrangle my data. I've just got to get it together. That's like my first step, is my data is all over the place. For those of you in the room who use Alteryx, you know that this is Alteryx's low-hanging fruit sweet spot that helps people get there. Once I do that, I actually want to automate. Most industry leaders I meet with are under intense pressure to reduce costs and reduce headcount. And when I go to an organization and I tell knowledge workers, hey, I have a technology that could automate probably half of your job, how do you think they respond to that? Sounds kind of scary, right? Like I might lose my job. Actually, what I see, and this just was in another meeting this week, is the people who lean into automation and technology and becoming technology savvy, they're the ones that are typically protected because they're the ones that can help them automate processes as they have to reduce headcount. And I never see the reduction in headcount be direct like that, like, hey, I've automated your job, bye-bye. It's more when I have attrition, I don't have to replace those people. It is typically, or it's the people who we haven't automated their jobs, so the people who know how to automate are who are going to probably take over for them. Once I do that, though, now this is where I can start thinking about generative AI. I can get into true analytics. I've got to get myself out of this manual and start doing true analytics, which includes just basic reporting, machine learning, generative AI, and all the cool, sexy things we want to get to. And often once I do that, now I've actually done some process re-engineering, some true transformative work. So here's the journey to AI in general, and then we'll talk about where generative AI fits in. So when I'm reporting things, how many students enrolled last year, how many people put down deposits for dorms, how many dorms do I need? I don't know about ASU, but my son is a freshman at another institution and they oversold their dorms. And does that ever happen? More people put deposits down for dorms than they actually had to give. Not an uncommon problem from what I understand. So I can report on that, and I might even want to know, why did it happen? Did I forecast incorrectly how many people would decide to go off campus and live, for example? So I might want to dig and try to figure it out, but I'm still using my historical data. The power of getting into AI and machine learning is taking that same historical data and saying, okay, machine, tell me, based on what's happened in my history, what's likely to happen, what will happen. That's predictive analytics. Same historical data, by the way. I have people come to me and say, I want to do my first machine learning project. I want to do my first AI project. And they think it has to be some pie in the sky, brand new thing. And really, they just need to take that same historical data they're using for reporting. And prescriptive is when it happens, what should I do? When I've oversold my dorms, what should I do? What helps me fix it most effectively? Let's talk about generative AI, because it's the arrow kind of going off to the right. A lot of people don't recognize there's generative AI is a whole different subset, and I say subset emphatically, of AI. As a data scientist, the kind of problems I'm solving, predicting student attrition, predicting student acquisition, predicting donor giving, right? These are the kinds of things I want to do, and I'm probably going to use traditional machine learning and AI models, which is what Alteryx has been doing for way more than a decade. There's tools in there. You can do code-free machine learning projects with your historical data. Generative AI is more, how can I take the work I'm already doing in data analytics and automate it under the hood? I'm going to show you what this looks like. Generative AI is a very unique part of AI, and a lot of my leaders get these confused. They don't realize there's two kinds of AI happening in the world. Generative AI is really something to help me do stuff I do every day better. And it can be data and analytics, but it's different than solving a business problem using a machine learning model. Typically, there's a little bit of overlap, but I do like to delineate that. Once I start going on this journey too, it's recognizing that as I bring AI and more generative AI into my organization, I have to bring people on a journey. I have to get people excited and wanting to lean in. Hopefully, at the end of this talk, especially once I show you the possibility, there's an excitement about, oh, I can do this. I think I could start taking on some more AI, or maybe think about how I can dip my toe into the AI. But even once I get you excited, I've got to equip and enable you. I have to prepare you for the journey that you're going to go on. And then even once you're on the journey, I have to support and sustain you. And so I'm just going to show you this briefly. Because of our experience across 8,400 companies, we see that some of the things you do are just fun activities you do with your people that bring people on this journey. So if you run a department and you're trying to use more and more of your data and you want your folks who are in the Excel spreadsheet hell to do that, we have some fun activities and a full playbook that we see our most successful customers do to be successful. And none of them are rocket science. None of them are a super heavy lift. Actually, you're doing one of the key ones today. ASU has done this really well for a number of years because we've been in partnership with you for a number of years, an analytical day. Because when you're doing an analytical day, you're combining things like TED Talk, you're bringing your community together, you're having sharing sessions, demo sessions. It's kind of a mini industry conference because you're bringing in lots of different technology partners, right? So there's a lot going on here already that you're already doing. So congratulations for being on that journey. Bringing your leaders on the journey is important too. Leah and I were just at another institution in California a couple of months ago. They wanted to bring their leaders on the journey. The provost brought in different departments to learn, how do we create a culture of analytics? How do we as an institution drive analytic transformation? And we actually spent the whole day. This is untraditional. Usually I'll do these like maybe one a month for the leadership or one a quarter. They wanted all four, the first four in one day. And we did it, didn't we, Delia? It was fun. It was fun. We had a good day. So let's talk though. Okay, now the fun start. We've kind of given you some context and like what I see out in the marketplace around this hype of generative AI. What does it really look like in organizations and institutions that I work with? There is a lot of manual work still going on with data. But let's show you, I'm going to flip over and show you what does it actually look like to use generative AI under the hood for analytics and visualization. Locked me out. Give me a second. It's going. I have to be patient. Oh, of course, multi-factor. It's going to get me every time, maybe. Let's see if it'll let me. Where did my multi? Oh, there it is. Sorry, guys. Secure AI. This is how it looks. Let me approve. Give it my magic 35. Yes, it is me. We are good to go. And yes, keep me signed in, please. All right. So this is a product called Auto Insights. What Auto Insights does in general is it can take a data set that you have and you feed it the data set and you say, you go machine, go through every single field in my data. You tell me what's an important metric. You tell me what might correlate to that metric. Like, let's talk about student enrollment, right? Like it'll churn through and it'll look at the rest of your data and see, is anything correlating? What does it see correlating to student enrollment going up and down? And it's going to create a natural language visual report and visualizations for you, automatically going through your entire data set. Now, let's say I don't have a data set just yet. Let's say I'm kind of new to data. So I'm going to go to Auto Insights here, and I am going to use generative AI to help me out here. Who wants to be my play along? And play along is safe. All I'm going to ask you for is what department you're in, what your role might be. I'm not going to even use ASU. I just want the machine to tell me about reporting in your department. Anyone want to play along? Go ahead.
Oh, I amended the information system department.
Okay. I might try a non-technical one if you don't mind, even though we could do information systems.
I'm a finance director with core facilities research.
So finance director, core facilities. And the reason I'm not picking on you is because you're probably pretty data savvy already if you're in information systems. And finance are also pretty data savvy people, right? Because you're probably in Excel spreadsheet help. Don't worry, you're not alone. This is the world still that we live in. I didn't want to pick on you, but here's what I want to do. So this is going to use OpenAI under the hood. We're very transparent about what AI we're using, and we never ever turn it on automatically. This is part of our responsible AI. You buy Alteryx, if there's AI capabilities under the hood, generative AI, we don't turn them on automatically. You opt in. That's how we stay safe. And make sure our customers understand what we're doing. Because this is going out, it's going to go out to public OpenAI. And I'm going to say, tell me again, it was finance director? Finance director, and I'm going to say university. I want to give it some context. University core facilities. We'll see if it understands that. Let's see what generative AI comes back with. What we are doing is we are saying, hey, we want to know what kind of reporting, what kind of use cases might I have with my data? And so it is using the OpenAI internet to go do this. That's why I don't enter any organization, because it's not necessary, right? I tend to put what's the minimum amount. So what it came back with, what's your name, if you don't mind? Rebecca, it came back with some use cases for you. And in fact, I can even load more. It came back in your role, it thinks that you might need to optimize resource allocation, or you might need to evaluate cost efficiency, or you might need to assess your facility utilization. Oh, I just did one of these for an Australia government organization. They have scanning badges, and they're trying to figure out, people have a home facility that they're assigned to, but people aren't using it. They're using what's close to their home. So they're trying to optimize their building space. Anyway, I digress. Improved internal pricing strategy. Let's look at a few more. Just, I want you to know you got some choices here, Rebecca, of what we can do. So it's cranking, it's going to go out and get me some more. I'm going to let it go. And you can see it even tells me while it went more, it's giving me a description of what these possible use cases are for me and my role and what I care about. So I can benchmark performance, streamline administrative processes, determine cost models, enhance my service offerings. And look, it'll even keep going out and searching for more and more for me. Rebecca, did any of these sound interesting to you? Every single one, right? Like it knows you. It's like it knows you, right? And this is OpenAI, by the way, but it's on top of, we do some RAG ourselves to help inform this. You want to, let's pick one just to demonstrate.
The coffee.
Okay, that was back up here, I think. Oh, did I miss one? Oh, yeah, determine costing models. So determine costing models, what it says is, by understanding the usage of different resources, an effective costing model can be developed. This can provide a fair and transparent way to charge for the services provided. So why is this important? I have a lot of folks out there, especially leaders who aren't day in, day out in data, that they don't know what the art of possible is with their data. So generative AI can help us understand in our role. So we're going to click. Now, Rebecca, we're going to determine costing models. I said I want to pick this use case. And now I'm saying I want to, did I click it? I don't know if I actually got the click. There we go. I actually want to see some reports. Give me some examples of what reports I might want to go develop. Actually, what it's going to do, it's not just what you might want to develop, it's going to actually make them for you. So it's going to come up with, for this use case of determining costing models, it's going to tell me what I typically want to report on, and it's going to go build some fake data to build that report, some sample data. The fancy term, I'm going to give you a few fancy terms, is synthetic data. So it's going to go make this data, and it's going to make you some reports, Rebecca, to show you exactly what you could then take your data in and do. So it's building, it's going off, and you can see it's gathering use case information. It's building metadata fields. That's a fancy way of saying it's telling me what data columns, what data elements I might need. It's building reporting structures. So now it's actually identifying them. It's moved on before I could read all of it. It's even, look, it's going to figure out who are your audiences. Who might I, Rebecca, as a finance director, report this to? My CIO, my CEO, you know, my departments. It's thinking about audience even as it goes and does this. And it's telling you key benefits. So as it builds this for you, it's giving you some talking points. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm your finance director, and I want to ensure that we have transparency and fairness in our organization. And look, here's how I'm going to do it. Right? Like it's kind of cool. So now look at this. It's given me, and it even, here's the suitable audience, the finance director, service managers, operational staff, department heads, marketing team. So it even has a sense of who these reports might go to. So let's look, Rebecca, we've got several reports here. We've got service cost allocation, service efficiency analysis, value for money analysis, and our usage and cost analysis. Which one do we want to build? Okay, service cost allocation. So what service cost allocation says, it's a report to visualize. So we know that some of these things are important to have visualization. The distribution of service costs across different departments, services, and service types. Does that resonate? Yeah? Okay, she's like, oh yeah. This report would provide an overview of cost allocation and highlight areas with disproportional expenses. So let's click on generate report. Do we want this? Is this something you would do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly? Monthly. Okay, so we want monthly reports. See, it even gives a choice of the granularity. So it's going to crank and it's going to do that. But you can see while it's doing that one, let's look at some of the other ones. For service efficiency, it was looking at the relationship between service duration, the service type, and the cost. And it could help you identify where you have inefficiencies in your service delivery and areas where you could make some cost savings. So value for money analysis. This is a report. It says it analyzes the satisfaction rating. So if I'm trying to get my service, you know, quality up or my stakeholder satisfaction, and so it says it gives an indication of the value for the money from the perspective of the department utilizing your services. So these are real. It knew the real use cases. Oops, I did get an error. Let me try again. Might be because I don't remember if we ended up plugging into might have had a timeout there, sometimes with Wi-Fi glitches. Yes, sir.
8 minutes.
8 minutes, perfect. I am right on time. Thank you. So it's building this report. We're starting, and we could do the same one for your department, right? I was just in with a bank. We did some banking use cases. I mean, it's pretty cool because it's going out and it's coming up with the context. Also, what it can do, I think while it's doing this, I can look at the data it came up with. So there's the synthetic data set. It came up with transactions, transaction date. It's going to use service name. It's going to use department name, the cost, and the service type as some of the data elements. And I can even download that data structure so that I can say, hey, this is the data. Now I want to blend my data in. By the way, I have this tool called Alteryx Designer that could help you do that. But to get that. So now let's open the monthly report. Let's see what it built for us, Rebecca. So it basically created sample data, and then it's sample reporting. And then if Rebecca plugs in her own data, it would actually update to do its analysis. So it tells me what the report provides. We already read it, so I won't read it. And now it's going to give me different elements. It's going to say the cost overview by department. And boy, that math department, whoo, lots of costs going on there. And it tells me, though, it sees that the mathematics department had an increase, right? And what it tells me is it saw a fast rise. It gives me some natural language and said that this is what contributed to your overall increase. So it goes in and tells me this. And it gives me a visualization too to help me tell that story. Here's service costs, comparing service cost type over time, right? So it looks over time, where are like my lab costs and my consulting costs here? And there's my lab costs. So it gives me a sense, and it even tells me as I look at comparing it, it went up 28%, and then it says what caused the 28% increase. And it was actually in the service cost, it costs in lab and consulting. I'm sorry, not reading that right. But it tells me that lab and consulting were my drivers for increased service cost. And it gives me a cost breakdown by service as well. So now I can drill down, because usually I'm like, well, what services, right, are they doing? And so it was material testing. So it tells me, and I can even highlight the other ones. There's lab training, DNA sequencing, DNA synthesis. And so it tells me which contributed most to the overall increase. And now it also analyzes my funding sources too. So is it corporate part? So what it's telling me, if I look at now, where am I getting my money from? I've got corporate partnership here, I've got donations, and it tells me where my funding trends are as well. Now, Rebecca, you have worked hard all day. At least that's what your leader thinks. We're not so many different, right? Your CFO, right? CFO, I worked hard all day, but I'll let you know, like, I created this amazing insight and analysis for you. And I actually walk into my CFO's office. So I'm going to create a PowerPoint from what I just showed you. Just put it on slides for my CFO. And I'm going to say, generate this presentation for my CFO. And then I'm going to go have a cup of coffee after I crush it with my CFO. So I can generate a power. So, and this is generative AI under the hood doing this work for me. This is the promise of generative AI, is how can we have it help us do our work better, faster, smarter? And here we go. Here's your deck. You're all ready to go. You can download this PowerPoint. Rebecca, you can put in your own visual on. You can put an image of ASU if you want it on that front page. You know, you can customize this once you download it, but it's put it on slides for you. So that is, let me go back to my slides. That is the promise of generative AI come to life in the analytics space. We all know it in tasks like summarize this meeting, summarize this phone call, summarize this email. Those are the kind of things we do with it. So thank you for playing along, Rebecca. Everybody, round of applause for Rebecca for being such a good skill for me. Thank you so much for coming to this session today. Please feel free to connect on LinkedIn. We really enjoyed having you here and enjoyed and appreciate ASU inviting us to present this year.